The holiday break is here, but when it comes to hoops, there is no such thing. We've got high school girls basketball right here at Minnetonka High School. The Minnetonka Skippers at 5-2 host the St. Louis Park Orioles at 2-6. That record a little misleading. This matchup will not be a pushover. A lot of fun awaits us tonight. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Peden, joined by Olivia Antilla, the coach at 43 Hoops AAU and 2010 state tournament champion with Benilde St. Margaret's. Olivia, you know a thing or two about these two teams. St. Louis Park 2-6, but their schedule has included the likes of Farmington, Park Center, Hopkins, St. Michael, Albertville. They played about half of the top 10 teams in Class 4A. Minnetonka not in that group, but that tough non-conference schedule could prepare them for a game like this.
It could. All the tough schedule games that they've had are making for moments like this. They had a big win against Como Park in overtime, so we'll see how they come out tonight and how they can compete against this Minnetonka team.
And leading the way for the Orioles, Raegan Alexander, who leads the team in scoring and rebounds, and Kendall Coley. They can be a little up and down at times, but those two have provided a fulcrum for the St. Louis Park team, and it's paid big dividends, especially in those two wins.
Exactly, and the thing about St. Louis Park is they have players who come off the bench and some of their starters who can add value points as well. So between the two, one of them is always hot, and then they have players who can pick up behind where they leave off.
Minnetonka building off that young core from a year ago, so you'll see folks like Sophie Hayden, Piper Terry, and Desiree Ware. They don't have a lights-out score, but that balance, that energy, that speed has helped them to a 5-2 start.
And sometimes that makes it hard to guard a team when they don't have a scorer who's averaging 20 plus a game. You never know who can turn it on any given night.
And one of the new faces for the Skippers is Emma Dasovich, Leah's oldest daughter, starting as an 8th grader. I can't imagine the pressure that comes with that. But she's hung around the sport thanks to her mother, her parents. So I've got a feeling you wouldn't put her out there on the starting lineup unless you felt they could handle it, and it sounds like Emma can.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens in this non-conference clash when we return. This is high school girls basketball. Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves. Holloman, good if it goes. Yes! Game winners. From James. She's in trouble. Finds James. Toss shot! It goes in! And everything in between. Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. Let's put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching. Mike Peden and Olivia Antilla back with you at Minnetonka High School. And Olivia, apparently we're celebrities in this part of town because a couple of your old AAU players greeted you, and I had a player from Shakopee ask me for a photo, which has never happened before. I'm a little honored and embarrassed at the same time.
No reason to be embarrassed.
Minnetonka, you may recall, won a state championship in 2016 over Lake Conference rival Hopkins. That was a big deal for the school. They had never won a state championship in the sport of basketball. And one of the alumni responsible for that state title is here, Courtney Fredrickson, who's now playing at Wisconsin. Had an ACL injury last year, hoping to get cleared up to play in January. But it's always cool when you get to be a part of that history and that state championship banner. That will never go away.
It will never go away, and that's something to always remember, and something you will always remember and tell people down the line when they ask.
And that Minnetonka team, beating Hopkins to do it, it helped that Minnetonka was moved out of the section, but just goes to show you there are no guarantees. So even though Leah Dasovich and other 4A coaches have joked that Hopkins may not have a close game this year, you just have to go back to the archives and remember that you got to come out and play no matter who the opponent is.
Right, you just never know. On any given night, anyone can either lose or win the game. So
So I see Nora Francois, looks like, is here, and TK Mason from Cretin-Durham Hall, so a few folks coming out for this one. St. Louis Park, even though the record may not show it, Kendall Coley getting a lot of Division I offers. Raegan Alexander, she's had a fine couple of seasons. And Minnetonka, again, rebuilding, but they've sent a lot of D1 athletes over the last several years. Courtney Fredrickson, Lizzie Odegaard at Milwaukee, Megan Walker at Lehigh. So Minnetonka, they've got a lot of history. Let's take a look at the starting five for the visiting St. Louis Park Orioles. It's Joelle Sheffield, number 3. Jordan Turek, number 21. Raegan Alexander, number 23. Shayla Miller, number 31. And Kendall Coley, number 32. The skippers will start Desiree Ware, number 3. Ella Durkee, number 10. Emma Dasovich, number 25. Piper Terry, number 32. And Sophie Hayden, number 33. And speaking of history, Kendall Coley, the younger sister of Chase Coley, who holds the all-time blocks record and single-season record, blocks and rebounds in the state of Minnesota. Chase, of course, went to Iowa, played overseas for a season, now back home and moving on with her career. And over from Minnetonka, we mentioned Courtney Fredrickson. Not only did she win a state title, she is the all-time leading scorer at Minnetonka. They're wearing the blue, St. Louis Park wearing the white. St. Louis Park in Section 6, so they're going to have to get through Hopkins and Wayzata. And Hopkins ran them out of the building in their meeting last week. Here's Emma Dasovich inside, up and in.
A good way to start the game, attacking Coley on the inside and not settling for early jump shots.
Minnetonka in Section 2. Here's Jordan Turek into traffic. Piper Terry comes up with it, fires the 15-footer, and can't knock it down, but a save. That was Hayden. 3 on the way. Bullseye. The hustle play by Hayden set up the three-pointer for Ella Durkee.
She did, and that's why you don't give up on plays, regardless if you think you're not going to get it or not. You attempt to get that ball.
I know the look on your face as Kendall Coley fires the 3. Kendall's been up and down this season. But the look on your face when that 15-footer airballed, you're going, what world was that?
That happens. Could be early jitters or just getting acclimated to the game. But that is a good sign for Tonka that they have just made 3 of 4 shots to start the game.
I was going to say, it was like, what in the world? And then it was one of those, well, it worked out. Maybe they set that up all along.
Right?
Draw St. Louis Park off.
That was a written up play.
I bet you they work on that in practice. I bet you had a play like that at FAMU where you would airball it on purpose, draw the defense to sleep.
Just to throw it back out for a 3.
Yep. It's all conspiracy, folks. And if you believe a word I'm saying, then yeah, you don't understand sarcasm. But the Skippers do have a 7-0 lead. Here's Emma Dasovich out to Desiree Ware. Ware began her varsity career at Maranatha Christian Academy, where her father coached on the boys team. Raegan Alexander with the steal. Raegan with 4 double-doubles this season. Finds Shayla Miller. And that was Sophie Hayden with the rejection. Hits the deck, but finds Ella Durkee.
And she was the one who saved it before, so she's doing all the other things, going for saves, diving on the floor for balls. And at the end of the day, that is what separates wins from losses.
Hayden with a lot of hustle plays early. She gets fouled by Shayla Miller. So even though Hayden isn't on the scoreboard yet, so that save that set up the 3, the block, she's making her presence known.
Shayla Miller of the Orioles, her first team center.
Backdoor and 1. Emma Dasovich.
What a great start from Minnetonka.
In case you're wondering, there are more Dasovich offspring, but Leah, the head coach, told me that Emma's sister is in the 1st grade, so it's going to be a few years before she gets to play alongside. So we'll have to just settle for Emma for now. Some folks might scoff and say an 8th grader starting, but Emma Dasovich, she's got 5 points.
Holding her own. You can tell she has no jitters. She came ready to play.
That's Minnetonka ball, and one of my colleagues, Emil Jihad, told me, in situations like that, or teams that come out of state to play, you wouldn't do that unless you feel they could handle it. Timeout with 15:23 left. And it's St. Louis Park who calls it. Probably not a bad time for a timeout here with a 10-0 start by Minnetonka.
Exactly. Some early turnovers by St. Louis Park and some rush shots. And Minnetonka is making their shots, so it should be interesting to see how they come out of this timeout. They can either rise or stay the same, and then Minnetonka may take off.
As we were saying earlier, St. Louis Park a little unpredictable this season. Some fun facts about the skippers. Desiree Ware, her favorite food is French fries. Des or Desi are her nicknames. She also takes part in track and field. The sprint races is where you'll find her. She was part of the 4x200 state championship race last year for the skippers.
And that speed does come in handy when she turns that corner.
And if I recall, you did not have a spring sport?
No, I was basketball 24/7 all year round.
Oh, what might have been. I think you would have held your own out in the track.
Oh.
Here's a 3 for the skippers. That does not drop. And that will be St. Louis Park ball. That was Molly Oni.
It just seems like Minnetonka wants it right now, that this game is important to them. But St. Louis Park is only down 10, which is only 5 baskets if we're doing 2s.
Long way to go. 10-0 lead is nothing. And St. Louis Park can attest to that. They had a 10-point lead over Cretin-Durham Hall in the season opener at the Breakdown Tip-Off Classic, and then Cretin-Durham Hall came back to win. This is Raegan Alexander.
Number 23, Raegan Alexander.
Raegan, a basketball and volleyball crossover. And her nickname is Ray. Well, she and Kendall are both basketball, volleyball crossovers. St. Louis Park had a solid year in the fall. Actually made it to state in Class 3A. And I know you played ball 24/7, but I do enjoy the multi-sport athletes because take Alexander and Coley, for example. Well, Minnetonka looking to drive inside. Hayden, that was a tough shot, but she gets it to float in. But in basketball, Coley and Alexander, they're in a tough section with Hopkins, so you may not hear a lot about them in postseason play as Kendall Coley fires the 3. But they got to state in volleyball, so even though that's not their primary sport, it's a way to get publicity for their versatility.
Right. Both extremely athletic players, long wingspans, and can both jump out of the gym.
Well, and for Kendall, there's a lineage there, as we saw with Chase for all those years at Minneapolis-Washburn. Helped take that program to much success. Those are fun teams to watch. There's Kendall Coley, baseline no good. My favorite part about those games was watching Tyler Coley coach. So he has a very animated presence about him, but he almost has something nice to say on just about everybody.
Which is always a good thing as a coach.
That's a walk on Minnetonka. Well, last year, what Tyler told me, now that he coaches AAU but just focuses on being a fan in the winter, he told me the best part about not coaching is I get to be dad.
Right? Sometimes that's a hard crossover when you have to coach and your child is on your team. You want those opportunities to just be a parent and sit in the crowd and cheer your child on.
But he found something nice, positive, uplifting to say about all of his athletes, no matter how skilled they were.
And there they go. That is what St. Louis Park needs to do. They need to get to the rim. Against Como, that is what led them to the win in overtime, is they didn't settle for jump shots and they got to the basket.
Were you at that game?
I have the luxury of having kids on the team, so I watched it on Huddle the next day when Coach Lex from Como uploaded it.
That was a big win for St. Louis Park, and kind of amusing that it took overtime to get their first win of the year. Minnetonka will shoot free throws, a late foul.
And the whole crowd is upset at that block by that. The refs called that a foul, but that is sometimes what's tricky with Raegan Alexander. She sometimes gets in foul trouble because she loves to go for those blocks.
And when you swing down like that, it can be tough for officials to make that distinction. And that's not a knock on Raegan. It's just one of those nuances that you don't always see. And so Raegan's going to have to come out here with 2 fouls. And a big opportunity for the Skippers to build this lead. Minnetonka wins in 5 of their 7 games. So 2 losses came to Maple Grove, one of the top 10 teams in 4A. They're fun to watch. And Chaska, another top 10 team.
Both really good teams who will make a run this year.
And Leah Dasovich told me she wants to pick up as many non-conference wins as she can because of how the Lake got even tougher with the addition of Buffalo and St. Michael Albertville. Now, Buffalo not at the same tier as some of the others, but STMA, one of the perennials in Class 4A. Eden Prairie has a lot of talent. Edina, they're no slouch. Dasovich will shoot 2 more. And we all know about Hopkins.
Yes, we do.
And don't forget Wyzetta.
Right, who ran away with the win last night against Como Park.
Yes, but Park Center got a big win against them a couple days ago.
They did.
And all of these results, Apple Valley beating East Ridge last night, White Bear Lake beating Stillwater. It's gotten to a point where my initial thoughts about Class 4A have gone out the window with the exception of Hopkins being number 1.
You just never know. All these teams showing up. I mean, everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to go to state. So it really is a toss-up for all the other teams who are going to make it there this year.
Just when you think you know everything, weird things happen. 3 on the way. Knocking it down is the southpaw, Sadie Yarosh. And she's got 5 off the bench for the Orioles.
Definitely giving them the spark that they need to get started.
Minnetonka drives and scores. Piper Terry saw a lane and took it home. 5 Minnetonka players have scored. In fact, all 5 starters have now gotten on the board. Coley for 3.
There she goes. She needed to see that one go through the rim, so now we should see more coming out of her.
And I see TK Mason doing a windmill. TK and Nora, both AAU teammates with Kendall Coley. Tyler coaching UVA. And he's coached the likes of Mason, Francois, Frankie Vassalera at Holy Angels. Tyler's also known to retweet himself because he owns more than one account. His daughter Chase caught wind of that. That's going to be a foul inside. Last to get for the Orioles. So Chase caught wind of that, and Tyler responded, "I'm so cool, don't be a hater." Which is what, it's like, that sounds like something he would say.
Right.
And Tyler's even done some scouting for WNBA teams. When opponents need a scout on the links, they'll call him up because he knows the game.
Right.
Tyler's a character, but he's a fun one. That's why I don't mind sharing these stories. Desiree Ware left alone for 3, off the heel.
Good rebound.
And Terry will shoot free throws, and Minnetonka, they're in the bonus, so they could rack up points at the line here with 10:39 left in the first half.
And this is the issue when Raegan Alexander gets into foul trouble, is they don't really have another rebounding force that can take up those rebounds when she's out.
This is Piper Terry. Piper Terry also involved in swimming and choir when she's not doing basketball. You don't see a lot of swimming basketball crossovers. Liza Carlin comes to mind. but they say it helps with your all-around strength because if you want to move in the pool, you've got to use all your muscles.
Right.
But swimming and choir, fun little mix there for Piper Terry. That will stay with St. Louis Park, and even though Minnetonka has controlled this game from the start, it's a 17-9 score. So St. Louis Park, they're hanging around.
They're not going anywhere. It's still anyone's game at this point.
Coley, the Miller. Miller, top of the key. 3 is short. And Raegan Alexander going back in there. So Arsenio Richardson, St. Louis Park's head coach, putting a lot of confidence with Raegan at 2 fouls already.
With still 10 minutes in the game. We'll see how Minnetonka plays this and if they attack her on their first play down the floor.
Well, Jordan Turek attacks and will shoot 2.
And that is something that St. Louis Park is good at, getting to the rim, which is why we may see Minnetonka more in a zone.
Jordan Turek averaging 10.9 points per game for the Orioles. Her season high is 18.
And he got nervous. Oh.
Who got nervous there?
He got nervous and took her out. She was in for, Raegan Alexander was in for about 1 play, and he saw the commotion down there and was like, nope, we can't afford you to get a third.
Well, that was a shooting foul, so I don't know what the commotion was about. But maybe one of those offense-defense substitutions. Usually see that in the second half. St. Louis Park coming off a win over Edina earlier this week. And you were talking to me about this earlier. Once they get into conference play, Chaska figures to be a challenge, but the Orioles will have a chance to pick up some more wins.
The thing about them is they have different people who can score. They're an extremely athletic team, and so playing all these top non-conference games is only going to help them once conference play comes around.
Tori McKinney scored on the other end for the Skippers, another 8th grader. And was she or was who were the folks that came up to you?
They're on the bench. Tatum, who's number 5.
Grace Handorf. Grace Hamdorf. Minnetonka brings it up.
Oh, number 1, Tatum. I thought it said 5 on her back. And then number 35, Kenzie Wells.
Sophie Hayden's shot in the paint off the mark. 20-10's the score. Orioles looking to push in transition. Minnetonka catches up, and Turek had nowhere to go. The steal by Tori McKinney.
It's surprising how close this game still is, considering how many turnovers St. Louis Park has had early in this game.
19-11 is the score. Make it 21-11. Leah Dasovich not afraid to put out the youth movement. Her 8th graders have combined for 11 points, McKinney and Dasovich.
Which is nice when you can go to younger kids and know that they will bring you productivity off the bench. Or starting.
Right, Como Park comes to mind. A lot of their big name players started
as 8th graders, yep.
And look what happened with that program. Lost to Wayzata last night. Alexis Gray-Lawson felt they could have played better, but you know what? That game was a little closer than I thought. I thought Wayzata was going to run away with it. But Como Park, they've held their own, and I wouldn't count them out in Class 3A.
At all.
Kendall Coley draws the foul and will shoot 2.
And that's an inbounds play St. Louis Park goes to a lot. Due to her length in her arms, that is an easy play to get for her.
Well, Kendall Coley at 6'3", her big sister Chase at the same height. Tall, lanky, and both bring a lot of skills. You were telling me Kendall Coley is a 6'3" point guard.
She is. Last season we saw a lot of her playing the point position. They moved her more to the 2-3 this year, but she does have the capabilities to play that point guard position, which is a plus when you are 6'3", and most common point guards are nowhere near that height.
And it's an interesting dynamic to see with her big sister being more of a post player. Free throws coming for Emma Dasovic.
She has made herself known and her presence felt within this game.
Fouls on the Orioles, number 4, Faith Johnson, her first.
So this Minnetonka team, they could be one to watch over the next few years. You know, Desiree Ware, a sophomore. You've got a couple of 8th graders, so a lot of youth. In fact, no seniors on the varsity roster for Minnetonka. So this team, they're going to have a couple of years to play together. And Leah Dasovic earlier this week told me as much. They've gelled a lot better than a year ago because this core group, they've had a chance to get to know each other. And Emma Dasovic, she's got 9 points.
She is, again, like I said, making her presence known. This game is playing with no fear, rebounding, getting to the basket. It's great to see.
I bet she watched all that tape of you as an 8th grader and drew inspiration.
Always.
Well, but you did play as an 8th grader, though.
I did.
Emma Dasovic, she's averaging 6.1 a game. Her season high is 17. So this isn't entirely unprecedented.
But as I stated before in the pregame, when you have all around the same averages for points, anyone can turn it on any night, and they keep feeding her because she is hot right now, which is a good sign to see.
Well, Matamidai has that dynamic with new head coach Erica Zizzo, and that's how they won their first 7 games before White Bear Lake beat them. White Bear Lake, similar. No big superstars. They spread it around and let the collective do the talking. And as crazy as this sounds, I've even said that Paige Beckers, if she were on another team, would probably have more 40, 50-point games, but displays some selflessness at Hopkins, where she's got a lot of help.
Right.
Now, granted, it helps to have a lot of D1 talent around her, but still, you know, you are making some sacrifices. So, you know, she has the all-time scoring record at Hopkins, but
Fouls on the Orioles, number 4.
she could have 3,000 points easily if she played elsewhere.
Right.
And more free throws coming for the Skippers. That's the second personal foul on Faith Johnson, number 4. And that's Tori McKinney. I don't know if this was in the scouting report, but the 8th graders are stepping up big time in terms of points.
Right. Giving them, again, coming off the bench, giving them that boost that they need. She came off, scored some quick points for them.
Does it remind you of when you suited up as an 8th grader?
Yeah, because I always just tried to do what I had to do for the team, whether that was scoring, rebounding, diving. You feel the role, and you just feel out the game and what's needed.
Almost makes me want to go back and find the archives of you playing as an 8th grader.
No. I look back and watch old games, and I'm like, wow.
So anyone watching this, if you've got footage out there of Olivia in 8th grade, I'd love to see it.
Let's keep it to ourselves.
Well, come on, you had a solid career. You
I
had
did.
1,000 points.
I did.
Played in 3 state titles, or 3 state tournaments, I should say, 2 state championships. Skippers are up 24-13. Working their way inside. That's a high arcing shot. Tough one for Sophie Hayden. Jump ball, and Minnetonka has the arrow.
And they're definitely winning the rebounding game right now.
Possession, Minnetonka.
5:50 left in the first half, and another timeout. Well, Olivia, I guess you're no different than most others. When you become an adult, looking back in those early years of high school can be a little embarrassing.
Yes, it always is.
Because I look so small.
Right? And it's like you don't even recognize yourself. So let's keep those hidden away in the archives.
Well, there are some archives, believe it or not.
I can
There's some
believe that there
mixtapes
is.
of you. Now, it's in standard def and nowhere near the quality you see now, but there are some mixtapes out there with you getting buckets for Benilde St. Margaret's.
I'm sure.
And elsewhere, 5:50 left. Well, speaking of Osseo, they brought back the 2000 state championship team last night for their game with Park Center. So they've got some history.
They do. That was the team that, you know, they had so many good players that year, and winning that was so amazing for them. And another foul for St. Louis Park.
That's the third on Faith Johnson. 2 free throws coming for Sophie Hayden.
Foul is on Orioles.
And I guess it reminds me that you're coming up on the 10th anniversary of your state championship.
We are. That's coming up next year.
So,
I haven't even thought about that.
well, before you know it, someone at Benilde St. Margaret's might reach out to you.
Right?
Well, and speaking of Benilde St. Margaret's, Olivia Olson last night, even though De La Salle won convincingly, she dropped 40 points.
Oh, wow. We've been seeing a lot of that going on. Abby Schulte at
Maple Grove.
Maple Grove dropped 40 points the other night. I think it was about last week. She did that as well.
Now, how many of that came in stat padding time, I don't know, but 40 points against the defending 3A champs.
That's nice.
You know, I know Benilde St. Margaret's trying to rebuild their ranks. Michael Swan in his first year as head coach. The St. Louis Park and Benilde, inter-city rivals, being in the Metro West Conference. They get to play each other twice. Those are always big games.
Right.
Raegan Alexander back out on the floor. And again, she's got 2 fouls. Shayla Miller has 2 fouls. Faith has 3. So St. Louis Park, they've got a lot to be careful with. And that was last touch by Shayla Miller. It's going Minnetonka's way. And the Skippers, they're up 25-13. A lot of the damage has come from the free throw line. They're just getting there a lot in the first half.
And that's going to be the ending point for the game is St. Louis Park going to continue to foul and putting them at the free throw line.
And as we said before, this is a team that spreads it around. Their leading scorer is the ball handler right now, Desiree Ware, 12.6 a game. Piper Terry through traffic, can't get the bounce. Officials let that one go. Sheffield for 3, that's off. But the Karen bounces over to Miller's hands. Entry pass to Turek. And that was Piper Terry with the block.
And St. Louis Park does seem to keep going offense, defense with Raegan Alexander because she is back in again.
Sophie Hayden, the other double-digit score for the Skippers, 11.4 a game. Well, there's Raegan getting the O board, and Minnetonka ball. Shayla Miller was in trouble anyway. And here comes number 13, Sadie Arash. There it is again. Offense to defense. So Arsenio Richardson trying to save one of his top players for the second half.
And even with all the fouls and putting Minnetonka at the free throw line, St. Louis Park is still just hanging around.
And an offensive foul. And that's one reason they're hanging around. Minnetonka, they struggled as of late to convert down low.
So that can be a win for St. Louis Park. They just have to see the ball go into the basket, which has not been a thing for them this first half. I think it's because they're settling for a lot of jump shots instead of getting to the basket.
There's another example. Well, Kendall Coley comes to mind. She's shooting the 3 ball a lot. Now, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I believe she's shot about 5 and she's sunk 1. So definitely she should look to get to the basket.
But she does draw an offensive foul.
And that is the second offensive foul on Sophie. She just got 2 back-to-back fouls, giving her 2. And
she will stay on the floor. Leah Dasovich not going to her bench. And I was going to say, Kendall operates differently than Chase did, so you'd like to see her go inside, but again, Kendall, not the post-up player that Chase was. But St. Louis Park, if those threes can start going in, I think they're back in business, but until then, I agree with you. Try to find a way inside. I mean, you've got a lot of height, especially with Kendall Coley out there.
And that's why we see Minnetonka playing that 2-3, because they know they can attack so easily. They want them to shoot, and the ball's just not going in right now. But it's been about a 2-minute drought for the game, so at least St. Louis Park is getting it done right now on the defensive end.
Whoa, Desiree Ware came out of nowhere to save it. Oh my goodness! Kendall Coley had her sealed off initially. Desiree using that speed to go baseline. Jordan Turek, another jump shot. Again, the Orioles settling for jump shots, as you noted. Minnetonka working their way inside.
And that was another example with Ware of how Minnetonka is just not giving up on plays. Even if you have the rebound, they're going to stay active in it, hoping to get it back.
That was an impressive run by Desiree Ware. You don't see that often. SLP looking to go in transition. That doesn't work out. Raegan Alexander, well, I guess it did. Double team, no problem.
Right?
I bet you did that all the time as a player.
Definitely tried to, but that was a good hustle by St. Louis Park to still go after it, stay active, and then again, getting the layup, not settling for the jump shot.
Ware using the hesitation move and another miss. St. Louis Park with a chance to pick up a little momentum here. Another three from Sheffield, and that's off the mark. And again, they keep settling for jump shots.
And the thing is, like, a couple of them have not even been close. I get if you want to keep shooting, but a lot of time when you're not seeing that shot go in, you have to find another way to see the ball go through the hoop.
We'll take Alexander's basket a couple plays ago. Threes are nice, but if they're not going in, you're right. You want to keep shooting, but you also want to make sure you're putting points up on the board.
Exactly.
Wedgie. And as you know, a wedgie means jump ball, so St. Louis Park will get it. And Kendall Coley missed. Oh, here comes Arsenio. Has he got the hops? Yes.
Coach showing he's still got it just a little bit.
And I'll use this opportunity to point out that all three coaches for St. Louis Park are wearing their ugly Christmas sweaters today.
I mean, it's that time of the year.
Apparently, we decided to coordinate because I got my Pac-Man one on.
Right.
When I walked into the building, Leah Dasovich and the entire Minnetonka staff on hand, they all love this sweater. Apparently, I don't know what ugly means.
Obviously not, because it is a cool sweater.
Yes, they said it's not ugly, it's cool. And Raegan Alexander throws it right into the hands of Ella Durkee. Dasovich, the long skip, left alone is number 22. Malioni drains it. Malione, 29-15. Kendall Coley. She's 1 of 6 or 7 now from three-point range.
But Raegan Alexander doing what she does and getting that rebound. And again, they're settling for another 3 off of an offensive rebound.
It reminds me of Stillwater. You know, teams that rely on the 3, it works if they're going down. If not, you've got to be a little more creative. Otherwise, you run into trouble.
A lot of teams nowadays are having the model of live and die by the 3, because when they go in, they're hard. Raegan Alexander with the steal, up in advance. A layup, 2 points. Good way to close out the half for St. Louis Park.
That was Shayla Miller completing the transition play. Less than 10 seconds. Dasovich, pump fake, up, no good. Rebound, put back to beat the buzzer. Malione gives Minnetonka an exclamation point to end the first half. 31-17 our score.
That was a good way to end for Minnetonka to stay in it, even though the seconds were winding down.
And that play illustrates the trends in this game. St. Louis Park relying on the outside game. Minnetonka able to work their way inside. Hasn't always been pretty, but they're getting points out of it.
Exactly, and it's still a whole nother half of basketball, so we'll see how the coaches go in, how they prepare their teams to come out for the second half.
And we'll bring you the second half when we return. This is high school girls basketball. Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting, and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves. Holloman, good if it goes. Yes! Game winners. From James. She's in trouble. Finds James. Tough shot! It goes in! And everything in between. Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. That put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching. Mike Peden and Olivia Antilla with you. Minnetonka leading St. Louis Park 31-17. First half stats. Emma Dasovich leading with 9 points. Tori McKinney with 5. So the 8th graders stepping up in a big way. The Orioles, Kendall, Coley, and Sadie Yarush have 5 points each. Olivia, we mentioned this before the break. St. Louis Park, if they can find a way inside or get a few threes to fall, they can work their way back in this. Minnetonka, I like their game. They've had some bumps, but they're mixing it up. They're working their way inside, and they're showing their hustle.
Exactly, and that's what's been the reason why the lead is where it is, because they've been playing the in-out game, and they've been doing the things that don't go onto the score sheet, the diving for balls, the staying active in plays, saving balls, all of those types of things. So we'll see how each team comes out to start the half. These first 2 minutes are extremely important for both teams.
Now, I want to know something. Between the two of us, which one is more famous? Because we both have been getting stopped. Well, I know I've called some games with you now, and every time you show up, someone says hello.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have came up to you today asking for pictures, cards, all of that.
I need to copyright my autograph.
Right? It might be that time.
And my likeness, start making some money. What do you think? You and I, we'll hold some autograph sessions. High-low, and Dasovich will shoot too. And that's where Emma's been scoring a lot of points.
And Minnetonka doing what they need to do to get back to the free throw line.
Fouls on Orioles, number 3, Joelle Sheffield, her second.
Just an 8th grader, folks, but she's not playing like it. Well, just to recap, one of the folks that came up in halftime, well, actually, her son had more to do with it. Kelly Roisland, who's part of the Gophers coaching staff, has been the last couple of years playing alongside her former teammate, Lindsay Whalen. Played basketball and volleyball with the Gophers, coached at McAllister for a time. Sheffield for 3.
Almost.
St. Louis Park, they're going to keep shooting that 3 until they die. And Minnetonka knocks one down. That's a microcosm of how this game has gone. St. Louis Park unable to get that 3-point shot to work. Minnetonka hasn't used it a whole lot, but Durkee has a couple of trays. Here's Miller. They are just not able to work their way inside.
At all. But Minnetonka doing a good job of cutting off driving lanes and making St. Louis Park settle for those jump shots.
Skippers with a couple of chances down low. They can't put it in. Raegan Alexander with 2 fouls. Goes baseline and 1.
And that's what she does. Do not write out St. Louis Park in this game. If Raegan Alexander can get going, St. Louis Park definitely has a chance to make their way back.
And you and I have been saying this throughout the first half. We'd like to see more of that on St. Louis Park.
We would, and she is the player to do it. She's the one player more likely to drive and play that inside game than shoot the three-pointer. And sometimes once you play inside, that's what opens up the three-pointers. So will be exciting to see how St. Louis Park attacks off of that and one.
It was parent night tonight for Minnetonka, so all the parents got to come out on the floor. Dasovich to Ware for 3. Bullseye! Minnetonka, you really see the growth, the development between last year and this year with that group of players out on the floor. Kendall Coley.
And she gets one to go.
That's her second 3, and as we said, if St. Louis Park can get a few to drop, kind of like Stillwater or Minnetonka Academy, good things can happen. Emma Dasovich, long 2. And analytics will tell you that is the worst shot you can take.
Good pass ahead by Kendall Coley.
And Alexander, the beneficiary.
And this is how they normally play, advancing the ball quick, getting those rebounds and going.
Ware, guarded by Sheffield, looking to turn the corner. Well, she does, but too strong on the drive. And we're going St. Louis Park's way. You had a chance to see their win over Como Park, that thrilling overtime affair. How were they able to pull it off?
Raegan Alexander. She just kept attacking, kept getting and ones, and she was making her free throws. She made her presence known, and they kept feeding her the ball. And it looks like they are starting to do that now. A couple of iffy passes, but they are trying to go to her now that she has gotten those last few layups.
38-24, 14:59 left in the second half. Raegan Alexander again. Well, she's trying to make it work inside.
She is.
And there's still a lot of time.
And only down by 14, but they cannot trade baskets with Minnetonka. And what Minnetonka has to do is do what they did in the beginning of the game. Get the ball inside and limit their turnovers.
And just as you say that, they do turn it over. Miller with a little bit of a push. Ware gets called for the foul. You could have made a case that Miller
extended that arm.
Right.
But in cases like that, it's always a ref-to-ref type of thing. You never know which refs are going to call that, which refs aren't. The same thing that we talked about with the blocks earlier.
So Miller making the front end. May have caught a break there. That's just the first on Ware. Minnetonka not in any serious foul trouble, but St. Louis Park, they take advantage of the break they got, making both free throws. Give and go, and we're going to shoot free throws the other way. Ella Murray, the 5'7" junior.
Fouls on Orioles number 21, Jordan Turk.
We were mentioning the history with Minnetonka, Courtney Fredrickson and Lizzie Odegaard, the two big names in that state championship run. Hannah Hedstrom played earlier today for Lehigh. Helped start the Lehigh pipeline for Minnesota.
A ton of Minnesota players are going to Lehigh now.
6 Minnesotans on the Lehigh roster. And they include Hannah Hedstrom, Anna Harvey from Lakeville South, Franny Hottinger from Cretin-Durham Hall, Emma Grotehouse, Montemita's all-time leading scorer, Mariah Sexy from Eastridge, and next year they're going to get Mackenzie Kramer from St. Michael Albertville to join the Lehigh Eagles. And Kendall Coley will shoot too.
And that's what I wanted to see from her early this game, is attack the basket. Because she is so lanky and does have the ability to handle the ball, it causes mismatches for her off the dribble.
And Kendall Coley, again, a ton of Division I offers. I've got a feeling she'll play D1 somewhere. She's a junior, so I don't have any inkling where that might be, but whoever gets her, as we discussed earlier, will have a highly unusual point guard, and we say unusual just because of her build.
We're starting to see that more on the boys' side than we do on the girls' sides, with likings of, for instance, how Ben Simmons was the point guard at LSU, being as tall as he was. And there goes Minnetonka doing what they've been doing, attacking downhill towards the rim.
Malione scored. We're seeing that in the WNBA too. Candace Parker comes to mind. Turek got it. Good way for St. Louis Park to make something out of it. Sheffield had nowhere to go, found Turek, and Jordan knocks down the mid-range J.
And again, St. Louis Park is they're just hanging around there. Minnetonka not really able to get it over that 20-point hump just yet.
Long way to go, though.
But there they go, going inside, and a great move.
Sophie Hayden using the turnaround to perfection. She's up to 5. So if you're St. Louis Park, you're getting some plays to work on offense. But as you said, the bad news is Minnetonka's doing the same. The lane is open for the taking.
Good take, and she did that earlier in the game when she had first came in. But again, they cannot trade baskets if they want to get back in this game.
That was Sadie Urash, and a foul on Sheffield. Minnetonka, as we noted in Section 2, while in Section 6, it looks like Hopkins and Wayzata will have another showdown for that state tournament slot. In Section 2, that's wide open. Minnetonka having a strong start. Chaska in the top 10 right now. They've had some big wins on the resume. Eden Prairie, they've had a rough start, maybe not as strong as some thought they would, but they have a lot of talent on that group. St. Louis Park with the steal, and Shakopee, big win over Holy Angels, and they beat Chaska earlier this season. So Raegan Alexander with the putback, and Raegan starting to pick up some momentum on offense. Down to 11 points. And a foul on Shayla Miller. That will be, it's not up on the board yet, her third. She and Sheffield and I believe Faith Johnson all have 3 fouls. And St. Louis Park, they're not that deep on the varsity rotation.
Only play about 7 players, whereas you see Minnetonka is going about 9, 10 deep.
Tori McKinney with the block. So Urash got the steal, but Tori McKinney with the heads-up play, and the Orioles will have to settle for a side out here. Well, speaking of famous people, I see Tyler Coley. He's been getting a lot of folks coming his way. Kendall Coley for 3. That doesn't drop, and the rebound to Malione.
And again, you hear her dad telling her to go to the rack, which it got her to the free throw line just a couple plays ago, so I'm surprised that she's not going to keep going with that.
Entry feed, and Malione converts. Malione, the junior. If you're keeping track, that's 15 bench points for the Skippers. Kendall Coley, she's going to fire threes all day, isn't she? She's not going to give up on that no matter what the situation is.
And it went in, and that paid off for her. So, again, now St. Louis Park has got it to 10. We'll see if they can get it to single digits, but they will keep chipping away.
46-36 with 11:01 to go. Minnetonka will take part in the Park Center Holiday Invite. They will play Park Center next Friday. That will be a tough one with Park Center getting that big win over Wayzata. 9-0.
They have definitely been rolling this whole season so far.
And then they'll play Champlain Park the next day. The Rebels, they've got a lot of youth.
They do, and a couple injuries. They've definitely had an up and down season so far.
And after that, Leah Dasovich told me there's a situation, with St. Michael, Albertville, and Buffalo in the Lake Conference. They've got some tough stretches. Wayzata, Hopkins, and Eden Prairie will end the month of January for the Skippers.
Definitely some tough games to end a month on. but could be some opportunities for some big wins for them.
And if that wasn't crazy enough, they end the regular season at Wayzata and at Hopkins.
What a way to end the season.
Orioles looking to apply a little more pressure. They called that last time out. They have trimmed this margin to 10, so they are within striking range.
But Minnetonka staying patient, not forcing the issue, waiting to get that good open shot.
Emma Dasovich in traffic. St. Louis Park dismayed at the foul call, and you know what? I think that does bail out Dasovich because she did not have the greatest of positions down low.
She did not at all. But again, she's gone to the free throw line multiple times this game.
Dasovich at the line, shooting 2.
It's not the prettiest stroke we've seen, but remember, she's an 8th grader.
But definitely not playing like one tonight. 11 points. She's had a handful of rebounds, definitely handling her own.
Well, and I remember you told me it took you a while to build up that free throw percentage.
It did.
So it takes time.
It just comes with a lot of repetition.
Well, look at Alexis Bratt. Upper 60s last year, shooting in the 80s now.
Right.
And Emma Dasovich, she's up to 12 points. The last 8 of them have come at the free throw line. Alexander with the dime, and Kendall Coley, a rare mid-range jumper.
And here they go. And that's her capabilities of being able to hit that mid-range and stretch the floor to hit that 3. Back to 10. And we will see they cannot trade baskets. They cannot foul. They keep bailing Minnetonka out.
Dasovich. Tough position there. Raegan Alexander one-on-one with McKinney. This time she won't let McKinney get the best of her. You could tell she was ready after McKinney got the block the last time.
She was, and that's a good play by St. Louis Park, getting the steal down low and then looking to advance and then getting to the free throw line.
Raegan Alexander, she has 9 points. Kendall Coley, 14. Those are the 2 leaders. Raegan had 26 points in the win over Como Park. 4 double-doubles this season. Kendall Coley with 2. So those are the 2. Where they go, St. Louis Park goes. Raegan splits at the line. That does make it a 9-point margin. So the Orioles, no big runs yet. They're just inching closer and closer.
They are. And it started on the defensive end.
And that's their last foul to give. And you're not so sure about that.
I just thought that was a very interesting call. The ref called a body. If anything, I thought it was more of a hand check if they were going to call that. So, very interesting call.
It's still
by
a foul,
the ref.
though.
It is still a foul.
It's like calling a penalty in hockey. I mean, it's goes in the box score, but it counts the same way. But that is the last foul to give. Desiree Ware. No good. St. Louis Park doing a better job limiting Minnetonka to one and done offensively. This will be a big 3-pointer, and it goes in.
And this is also what St. Louis Park did against Como in the overtime win. They were able to hit big shots down the stretch.
48-42, a 6-point game. Minnetonka led by as much as 18. Count it! Ella Durkee using the pump fake to perfection.
And that was a good play. Again, Minnetonka attacking the basket and getting to the free throw line.
Okay, maybe not quite a pump fake, but the hesitation
Yes.
move, set up the 3 and
Yes.
get that first step. I like to say it only works every single time.
Right?
But, I mean, it does as a defender. I mean, you try to watch for those fakes, but I have to imagine it's hard.
Exactly.
I know you probably got burned on a few of those.
It happens to everyone, no matter how good you are as a defensive player, If someone sells that shot, you are going to go for it.
But St. Louis Park not going away. Jordan Turek with the triple.
I guess they were saving all the threes to make the game more exciting for the audience, for the comeback.
Well, as we were saying, if they can get a few of those threes to fall, that can make a big difference. No, we saw that with Stillwater Cretin-Durham Hall. Stillwater was hitting everything, allowed them to run away. Desiree Ware speeds her way to the basket. And they are bringing the energy. The crowd's getting into it now. Deep three. Maybe a little heat check there on Urash. If the Orioles had that inside presence, I only imagine how lethal they could be. I mean, they've got a lot of shooters.
They do. And that tends to be their Achilles heel, is not having a true big on their team. Raegan Alexander more of a tweener, not being of a tall statue of what a normal post player would typically be.
And on the other end, Desiree Ware, she's come up big the last couple of plays.
She has, attacking the basket, and that's what Minnetonka has been doing throughout the whole game, is getting downhill and either making the layup or forcing you to foul them so they can get to the free throw line.
That was the 4x200 speed she was showing.
Yes.
Alexander draws a foul, and that is the last to give for the Skippers. So, St. Louis Park. Oh, hi there. There's a little kid who is enamored with my commentary. Don't tell me you want a picture too. Alexander to shoot two.
You can definitely see St. Louis Park being more aggressive on both ends in this second half.
Well, you're mentioning Alexander being that tweener. I guess it reminds me of how you played. You weren't the biggest post player, but you went down there, weren't afraid to go up there, get in there with the bigs, and you held your own, but kind of that in between,
Exactly. Size doesn't necessarily matter, but it also does not hurt having a 6'3", 6'4", authentic post player down there.
If only you had a few more inches,
right? If only.
You could have had. Imagine all the records you could have had.
Exactly.
Well, you can only control that so much. Como Park comes to mind. They have to get it done with a really small team.
And they seem to, for the most part, handle what they do. And the thing about them is they never back down from a challenge. Even with their size, they bring it to you.
Well, take Wayzata last night. Even though it was a loss, they're not afraid to schedule tough.
At all.
And Minnetonka Academy, they play like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did have Nevaeh Galloway last year, but this year's team a little smaller. Some folks wondering maybe they weren't going to defend, and then they beat Sauk Center, and whoever thought they weren't going to be on the radar. Foul before the shot, but free throws are coming for Raegan Alexander.
And that's just what she does. And that shows that crossover between volleyball and basketball. She can jump, and she is strong when she gets those rebounds.
And that is also the fourth foul on Sophie Hayden. So now Minnetonka's got to navigate some foul trouble. But nothing doing at the free throw line. Not what you want if you're St. Louis Park. Here's Ware, out on the wing. Back to Ware. And Minnetonka taking their time here. We're at that point of the game. Dasovic, the kick out to Ware, and 3-second violation. You don't see that often in high school, but sometimes when you play keep away like that, you can get a little too patient.
Exactly.
And that's not to say Minnetonka should have taken a shot, but the longer you go in a possession, most teams aren't used to possessions that last longer than 30, 35 seconds.
Right. And then the players oftentimes forget to move.
I mean, we've seen that now, even with the shot clock in some of the events, that doesn't come into play because of how quick this game is, St. Louis Park ball. So when you go beyond that, like you said, you get a little lapse because you're not used to running a set beyond that length of time.
Exactly.
Three ball. St. Louis Park trying to work their way back from three-point range.
And I definitely want to see them keep attacking the basket. They've gotten now into the one-on-one, but they're settling for threes instead of attacking. And yes, they've had some fall, but great defense by Alexander.
That time, Emma Dasovic went for the dagger. Another three. Going back to our conversation, the inside presence. You mentioned Alexander being a tweener and Kendall Coley more of a point guard than a post. So you don't have a significant presence inside like other teams do.
Right.
And so maybe that can favor them against Como Park, who are small anyway.
Exactly.
But against Minnetonka, a team that has had a year to get to know each other. Free throws coming for Emma Dasovic. That's just the first foul on Kendall Coley, but Emma Dasovic with a crucial opportunity here. She's still leading the team in scoring.
She is.
12 points. The last 8 have come at the free throw line.
She's been effective. She's been demanding the ball inside and then either getting the layup or getting to the free throw line and making those free throws count.
1-1. I'm not so sure she's an 8th grader. Well, Tyler can speak to this, coaching Chase at Washburn. I'm sure Leah feels the same way. Treating her daughter no differently than anyone else, but inside it's got to be cool that you get to have that kind of bonding opportunity.
Right.
Alexander can't complete the Euro step play, and that's what this game has come down to. Minnetonka just making a few more of those clutch plays.
Still a lot of time left with 4 minutes, though, so we'll see if Minnetonka continues to be extremely patient or if they will stay looking to score.
At this stage, I don't think they'll attack unless they see an opening. A high percentage shot, if you will. They're going to eat up time. 3.5 to play. Work the clock.
And that's what doing that oftentimes leads to.
And the Orioles finish the transition play. Timeout. 3:15 to go, and as you said, the longer you run those sets when you don't normally do such a thing, the crazier things can get.
Exactly. We got the 3 seconds earlier, and then just an aggressive takeaway from St. Louis Park to lead to that open layup.
That's why you can't play too conservatively, even when you're leading by 9 or so. And St. Louis Park, they may not have a ton of size in the traditional sense, but they've got athletes.
Exactly. And so that's why Minnetonka should keep being aggressive in the sense of looking to go downhill, not waiting for those gaps to magically open up.
Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, our next game in chronological order, Olivia and Antilla will join me for that one. A daytime game. It is the holiday break after all. Como Park and Madison East. I know you work a lot with Chloe Dimitrick and you follow the Como Park team heavily, and I can't wait to see them play.
I do. I'm excited for that game. Madison East usually always having a top-tier team with some kids who've left that high school to play for likes of, I believe, either Auburn or Clemson.
Aaron
and
Brown,
so,
Auburn.
Yep. And so that should be an exciting game.
Minnetonka, they lead by 9, so they're still in the driver's seat, but can't get careless here. They don't want to give an opening. Well, Desiree Ware using that first step to draw the blocking foul. And Ware, 11 points, may not jump out at you on the score column, but that speed, the quickness, she's on the track team, does all the sprint events. It shows, as you said, with her ability to run downhill and her acceleration.
Exactly, that first step. When you are that quick, it's oftentimes hard to guard someone who is so fast because their first step is already past you.
Alexis Pratt at Stillwater comes to mind, another speedy player.
Definitely, and there's a lot of quick players, but when you can turn the corner to get the foul or get completely to the rack, it completely changes the game for you regardless of your size.
How quick was your first step?
I usually typically use my strength more than anything to get by my defenders.
I thought there was some sprinting in you. I thought you could run the 100-meter dash, I'm sure. Ware making both free throws. That puts the pressure on St. Louis Park. Turek missing the 3. Kendall Coley, rebound and the bounce. Kendall Coley up to 18, still a 9-point game. Turek has 3 fouls, and now she picks up her 4th. More free throws coming for Desiree Ware. And she showed glimpses of this as an 8th grader at Maranatha Christian Academy, transferred to Minnetonka after Maranatha went through some turbulence. And she's been a welcome addition to a group that's been building their way back up. Desiree, just a sophomore. Now, I wonder what kind of French fries she prefers. You know, the crinkle or the steak cut? Well,
There's so much variety.
I'll have to ask her if Minnetonka hangs on here in the post-game interview. And then there's sweet potato fries.
Right, which I prefer those. They're so good.
Turek driving, and she'll shoot 2. That stops the clock with 2:06. But Minnetonka, they're getting a dump in the free throw line, 19 of 25. That's 76%.
And that's definitely what has separated the game. They came out ready and were aggressive from the beginning, whereas we're seeing St. Louis Park be more aggressive, extremely more the second half than they were the first.
Well, at St. Louis Park, this will be attempts 16 and 17. So Minnetonka out shooting them at the free throw line. And again, going back to what you said, St. Louis Park favoring the perimeter early. Minnetonka using the inside game to their advantage. And St. Louis Park, that's going to be a foul, and that will be it for Joelle Sheffield. St. Louis Park, that win total is going to go up when conference play starts. And they also will take part in the Park Center Holiday Invitational. That invite out at Park Center has become a top-tier holiday event, and compared to some other holiday tournaments, usually if it's Roseville or Hill Murray, you'll see some good teams, but they're almost set up in a way for the home team to play in that championship round. Park Center, it's a round robin, so the matchups are predetermined. So St. Louis Park, they'll play Lakeville North and Eden Prairie. Those will be 2 good games.
Very good.
Minnetonka, Park Center, and Champlain Park. I've got a feeling the Skippers will have a good chance to beat Champlain Park. Park Center, that will be a challenge, but this
You
Minnetonka
never know.
team, right, well, and they're doing a lot better than a year ago. They finished under 500, went a long stretch last season without winning any games, and they are less than 2 minutes away from going to 6-2. 3 ball. No good, and that will be St. Louis Park ball. Only 1 bad loss for Minnetonka, and that came to Chaska. Maple Grove was a close one. They are coming off a win over New Prague. St. Louis Park turns it over. Kickball, so that will stay with Minnetonka. Minnetonka, Olivia, they haven't dazzled us with highlight reel plays like you'd see from Paige Beckers or Alexis Pratt, but they're getting it done at the free throw line. They got it done inside in the first half. They just had a little bit more in the tank.
Exactly. They came out ready, and like we stated before, you don't necessarily need an outlier score to get it done when you have multiple people who can give you those points you need on any given night.
Well, your Benilde St. Margaret's championship team in 2010 comes to mind.
We had a lot of people who could score the ball, and that's what the difference was between us and a lot of teams. And plus, it didn't hurt that we had 4 starters who were essentially 6 feet. So,
yeah, that helps.
yes,
then,
it definitely does.
well, Ignacio, too. You were there, Michaela Bailey.
Janae Morton, Phyllis Webb.
Janae's coaching now.
She is.
At Eastern Michigan?
I believe so.
How about that? And Leah Zabla's another one, coaching at Wayne State.
She is.
Maybe one day we'll see you out there in a D1 program.
Possibly. I really love coaching AAU and the opportunity to talk to so many college coaches and help my kids get to that next level.
More free throws coming for Desiree Ware. And, you never know. All these college coaches come up to you.
Right.
I'm convinced you might be more famous than I am. Well, you had what, 2,000 points? Or you came close to 2,000 in high school?
In high school, I had about
1,700, 18?
I think it was like about 1,600, and I know I finished my college career with over 1,800 points. So all it tallied together, so.
That's still way, way more points than I ever got. Desiree Ware up to 17. And they're doing this at the line.
And that was also kind of the difference in this game is Minnetonka was able to make their free throws, whereas St. Louis Park struggled from the free throw line. And they struggled getting to the free throw line.
Well, both teams were doing pretty well at the line. St. Louis Park 12 of 17, but Minnetonka 23 of 29. They were aggressive in the first half. That got them a lot of trips. They're getting a lot here, and they're making them count. And that will be it for Shayla Miller. She'll finish with 4 points. 23 of 29. So they're shooting around 80%. And St. Louis Park 12 of 17, that's not bad, but it's just a numbers game. Minnetonka getting to the line, so they're getting more points. They have a 2-to-1 edge in free throws. That makes a difference.
It does. And that was from the jump of the game. They were just more aggressive, getting to the free throw line more, and just making shots at the end of the day.
25 of 31. And St. Louis Park will shoot 1-1 here, but Minnetonka's going to get out of here with the win. So these two teams, they'll see each other, and that will be it for Tori McKinney. 5 off the bench, but she's an 8th grader, and she had a couple of plays, a block. Tori and Emma Dasovich, 2 names to keep an eye on.
Definitely.
Over the next several years here at Minnetonka. And it's amazing as we wrap this up. Minnetonka, they had to rebuild quite a bit from that state championship team, but when you get that first one, it does a lot in terms of history. I mean, Hopkins has been the favorite. They usually are. You have to go through them to win it. But Minnetonka, Elk River, Eastview, when they got it the first time, they got to win another one a few years later against Hopkins. When you get that first one out of the way, it may not get the headlines that the Lynx would.
Right.
But for the school, for those coaches, they can always go back to that and say, hey, we did it once. You can do it too. And Desiree Ware still getting after it. Minnetonka still getting after it on the offensive rebounds, even though they don't score there. You like to see that, even in a situation where the game is in hand.
Exactly. You keep going until the final buzzer goes off for the game.
And Olivia, I know we have another game together, but as we turn the calendar to 2020, what are some of your observations and surprises of the high school season?
I'm looking to see who steps up. I am anticipating a lot of surprising shockers. We've ended kind of 2019 with some surprising wins by games that everyone kind of anticipated would be easy wins for the losing team. So definitely in 2020, seeing who steps up. And once we get into January, that's when teams are usually hitting their stride towards the end of that month. So who is going to start separating and which teams are the hungriest to get to the state tournament?
Well, Apple Valley beat Eastridge last night. De La Salle got a big win over St. Michael Albertville earlier this week. White Bear Lake knocked off Stillwater. The parity is fun to watch. The parity has never been higher. So a lot to look forward to. And Minnetonka gets back-to-back victories, 67-54. They got it done from the free throw line, and they got it done inside.
They did.
St. Louis Park falls to 2-6, but these two teams are grinding, and we're going to hear a lot about them as the season moves along.
We definitely are.
So we'll try to get a word with the Minnetonka player or two before we wrap this up. This is high school girls basketball. The Skippers knock off the Orioles 67-54. Joining me are a couple of Minnetonka's young guns, Desiree Ware and Emma Dasovich. Desiree, we'll start with you. You racked up a lot of points at the free throw line. You and Emma actually both did so, and using that first step to your advantage. How does that speed work in your favor?
Yeah, I mean, when I have the speed, it's just about reading the defense, and every quick step, I can beat them to the basket, which is good.
You joined this team a year ago. Everyone returning from that group, they've had a year to get to know each other. How is that manifesting with the 6-2 start?
Yeah. Our team has really bonded well this year, especially from not a great season last year, not the best, I would say. We've definitely worked really hard to this point. Now we're 6-2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can just tell how our connection, we're bonded really well together on the court and off the court and on.
In this game, you built a lead early and held it throughout. St. Louis Park got within 6, but they relied on the outside game. You were able to get your way inside, get to the free throw line. So how did you make sure St. Louis Park didn't overtake you?
Yeah. We noticed that in the first half we were quicker on our first steps, causing them to foul. So our game plan was just to keep attacking. No, we don't even have to shoot the outside if we don't need to. Just keep attacking and trust the finishing.
Emma, just 2 field goals, and then you did the rest of your work from the free throw line. How nerve-wracking was it to find out you were going to start as an 8th grader, and over the last few games, how have you adjusted?
I was really nervous for the first game, and then I ended up having 17 points, and I was like, just got used to it now, and the whole team is we're super close, and I don't even feel like an 8th grader when I'm with them. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, and you've hung around the sport, I'm guessing, most of your life. I saw you got to meet with some of your heroes in Courtney Frederickson after the game. And so getting a chance to see this, you got to watch the state tournament run, and now you get to be a part of this program. What does it mean for you after being a spectator for so long to put on that uniform?
Yeah, I've been watching it for I've been in the gym my whole life. Both of us really have, with both of our parents being coaches. But I think being around all those girls who have such a high basketball IQ and being around them all the time kind of just grew on me, so I got used to it.
And then what is your performance so far say about 8th graders? I know it can be nerve-wracking. Some might wonder, well, is it family that got you in here? But, you're proving yourself. You've displayed that much tonight. So for others, who might be in your position, what advice would you give to these other young guns that are playing significant time in 8th grade?
I'd say just keep being confident and keep working, and hopefully you have a good team behind you. I know I have a really great team behind me that supports me in everything I do, and just keep working, because obviously there's a reason you're there, and if your coaches and your family and your friends didn't believe in you, you probably wouldn't be there.
And I suppose it makes for some fun conversations after the game. You don't have to go too far.
In the car on the way home, losses are kind of tough, but the wins are really enjoyable.
And on the plus side, it makes parent night real easy as far as getting the parents to...
Always here. They're always here.
Now, Des, I understand your favorite food is French fries. Do you have a specific type?
I would say waffle fries. Yeah, I gotta love those.
I was curious because Olivia, my partner, she likes sweet potato fries, so I was wondering what your French fry ranking was.
Yeah. It really doesn't matter to me. French fries are French fries, but gotta love them.
But you go for the waffle fries, so you probably hit Chick-fil-A up quite a bit.
Yes, my favorite restaurant.
Well, Chick-fil-A, you just got a free plug. Sarah, who do you want to say hi to?
My family, the Minnetonka girls basketball team. Hey, guys.
What about you, Emma?
Same thing. My family. Hopefully they're watching this. If they're not, kind of disappointed, but hey, guys.
I was going to say, if your parents aren't watching this, it'd be real awkward. And, look out, TK Mason is about ready to photobomb you. A little UVA love down there. Yeah. Well, I know they all came out. Congrats on the win, and I guess we'll see what you guys can do as late conference play approaches. I know that's going to be a lot of fun with two new teams, but this youth movement at Minnetonka, it's paying big dividends, and so I bet that 4x200 speed comes into play too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Big-time track athlete here. Big-time track athlete.
So you can watch Desiree blaze a trail in the spring and leave everyone else in the dust, but until then, you'll have to settle for her getting buckets and free throws. Again, congrats on the win. Thanks for stopping by, and enjoy the holidays and your holiday invite with Park Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Desiree Ware and Emma Dasovich, and that wraps things up here from Minnetonka. For Olivia, Antilla, and the rest of our crew, I'm Mike Peden. Thanks for watching.